Good morning, everybody. It's cold in here, man. Here in the eastern U.S., we're suffering through something of a cold snap. And a little further north from where I live, it's even worse. Up toward New England, they're having temperatures as low as 20 degrees below average. And even here, it's so cold, with the heat on, it's freezing. So cold, in fact, that I bet you by the time I'm done with this today, my piping hot cup of coffee will be ice cold. And not just because it actually takes me like an hour to tape this on account of how often I fuck up. The following comments are taken from editions of Mail Call printed in the Herald-Mail from January 12 to January 24, 2011, which can be viewed online in their entirety at www.herald-mail.com. First up from Williamsport. Now to 2012 is going to be an interesting time. Our country is $14 trillion in debt. Obama's administration has said we will have a $1 trillion deficit for the next 10 years. In 2019, our debt will be $26 trillion. Right now, we paid $250 billion in interest on the debt. In 2019, it will be $1 trillion in interest. So in 2020, we will have a $26 trillion debt. Stop spending now. Vote Sarah Palin 2012. Our great-grandchildren can't afford not to. You're worried about the national debt and how much the federal government is spending. I get that. But to solve the problem, you propose electing the woman who, as governor of Alaska, accepted hundreds and hundreds of millions of federal dollars. And that was just for one term that she didn't even finish. For a state with a total population of less than Charlotte, North Carolina. As long as it makes sense to you. Come on, callers, just stop this "you can't be a real American if you're a Republican/Democrat" fighting, because this kind of extreme partisan name-calling and bickering proves nothing, convinces no one except those who already agree with you, and poisons our political discourse. If you must debate this issue, at least judge people individually by their actions and not by party labels. As a proud conservative and Tea Party supporter, I see and know plenty of patriotic, real Americans of both parties, other parties, and no party at all. And I say a plague on both your partisan houses. Frederick, Maryland. Say, that sounds awfully calm and reasonable. Know what's coming next? Guess. Come on, guess what's coming next? Regarding Don Munson working for Donahue, well, we always knew he was a RINO. Now his true colors are shown, and thank God Shank beat him. Goodbye, RINO. And Munson, I hope you're as unsuccessful at being a volunteer as you were at running for re-election. Morgansville. Why don't you knock off the partisan name-calling? 'Cause it's all I fucking have left, okay? Actually, my favorite part of this was that the intern at the Herald-Mail who typed it up was smart enough to know that RINO is an acronym, but stupid enough to think that it has an H in there. What's the H stand for? Maybe the intern thought that the caller was insulting Munson by likening him to a malfunctioning piece of meteorological equipment? People, you know, worry about crime and the shape this country's in. What they need to do is they need to put the Ten Commandments back up, which they never should have taken down. Put God back into everything. People should start going back to church and start believing in God instead of taking him out of everything like they've done. You can imagine the shape this country's in because of all this. And then they can thank their senators and their congressmen for people not getting raises on Social Security because they give raises to themselves. So, Hagerstown. Let's just shove Christianity down everybody's throats. That'll solve everything. Post the Ten Commandments and crime will disappear because the Ten Commandments order us to refrain from such horrendous crimes as... What exactly? Pop quiz, no cheating. How many of the Ten Commandments prohibit actual crimes under United States law? How many? 2. 4 at most, but it takes a couple of allowances to get there. Let me explain. Worshipping other gods, making idols, perfectly legal. We can worship all the gods we want to. Taking the Lord's name in vain. What kind of a goddamn country would it be if we weren't allowed to do that for Christ's sake? Neglecting the Sabbath, not honoring your father and your mother. Nothing illegal about either of those. Coveting your neighbor's shit. The law says covet all you want. Unlike God, we do not police people's thoughts. Now, here's where it can get a little murky. In most cases, bearing false witness is perfectly legal. But if you lie to a cop or in a court of law, it's so totally not. And in some states, including Maryland, there are still laws on the books against committing adultery, although these are rarely enforced. So whether or not observing these two commandments would actually prevent you from committing a crime depends on the particular circumstances. So the only commandments that prohibit real, serious criminal behavior are the ones that forbid murder and theft. Murder and theft are always illegal, and believe me, they will lock your ass up for that shit. That's 2 out of 10. No commandment against rape. No commandment against child abuse. No commandment against slavery. I wonder why God didn't seize that opportunity. For the person who wrote in not understanding why Pete Waters would write an article about the no, don't ask, don't tell, I guess you've never served in a forward unit in the military and had to deal with something like this as part of the situation that you have. It is the biggest mistake we could possibly make by allowing this to occur and cause problems within our military. It's hard enough. Hagerstown. The report the Pentagon commissioned on the effects of ending the ban on gays in the military found that 30% of those who responded to the survey thought that allowing gay men and women to serve openly would have a negative effect on the military. In 1948, when Harry Truman ended racial segregation in the military through Executive Order 9981, 61% of white troops surveyed opposed integration. Harry Truman went along anyway because he knew it was the right thing to do. And troops back then did the same thing that troops today will do once Don't Ask, Don't Tell dies its long overdue death. They sucked it up, they made the necessary adjustments, and they got on with their jobs like professionals. Here's another comment from a few days later on the same subject. During my 4 years of military service, we suspected that a few guys in our unit were gay, but they weren't a problem. There were several jerks that bothered me a lot more. The most irritating and boring were the blowhards who never seemed to think or talk about anything other than their alleged sexual exploits and their great popularity back home. Maybe these are the guys who would have great difficulty serving with gays in the front lines. If homophobes and racists keep their mouths shut, they won't need to worry about whether a gay or black guy will cover their backs in combat. Washington County. So Hagerstown, did you want to shut the fuck up now, or? The liberal Democrats will stop at nothing to try to wipe out free speech. Now Fox News is responsible for the tragedy in Arizona. So says the demos. Did speaking the truth, as Fox does, cause the Romans to kill Christ, Lincoln, Kennedy, John the Baptist, bring bombing and terror to so many innocent countries, including USA, i.e. 9/11? Fox wasn't around then. Hagerstown. The Romans did all that? God damn. Those boys were some bad news, weren't they? I'm pretty sure Fox News was around circa 9/11, actually. I'm also pretty sure that the accusation that Fox News and the incendiary right-wing punditry for which it holds a megaphone were responsible for Tucson were confined largely to a few voices on the left in the immediate aftermath of the Tucson shooting, when the reactions were the angriest and most reflexive. That doesn't make it right. I'm just saying, this notion that the liberal Democrats have all been blaming Fox News for the Tucson tragedy just ain't true. Of course, if all you're watching is Fox News, how would you know that? I'm calling in response to the callers from Sharpsburg and Hagerstown and Boonesboro, saying that they should execute violent criminals, and that would keep our jails less crowded. They used to execute all the time in the U.S. back in the 1920s to the 1950s, and it never deterred crime. I'm for the death penalty, but it does not reduce your prisoners in your jails. It does nothing to deter crime. When people are committing a crime, they don't stop and think, oh, I better not do that because I might get executed. Hagerstown. If you know the death penalty isn't a deterrent to crime, why are you for it? Why are you for the death penalty? That's like saying, I know corporal punishment doesn't really make children behave any better, but I kick the shit out of my kids anyway. Do you just like seeing people executed? Is that your justification? Just pure personal sadistic pleasure? That's my justification for beating up kids, but see, that's not a perfect analogy. Today is January 14th, 2011. I was reading an article in Mail Call where a person put in there about handguns are not needed. All they're good for is killing. It's not the handgun that does the killing, it's the person behind the handgun. Even if they make stiffer gun control, still, the criminals are still going to get them, so I don't understand this person's theory, what it's going to solve. Big pool. So your theory is, it's not worth at least making it a little bit more difficult for a would-be criminal to get his hands on a firearm because he's just going to get his hands on it anyway? But if we make it more difficult for someone who shouldn't have a gun to get a gun legally, and they're forced to go and get it somehow illegally, so what? If you're going to use a gun for a crime and you don't have one already, I think you should have to steal it. I think that we, as a society, should force you to steal it. Sure, the hardcore ones who are dead set on doing something fucked up with a gun are going to find a way to get one, but let's at least make them steal it. Whose interests are we serving by not forcing violent criminals to steal their guns? I would like to know how the town of Williamsport can charge a senior citizen $82.69 for a water bill when she has been in a nursing home for 3 months, has not took trash out, flushed the toilet, did laundry, run water, or took a shower. Something about this is not right, and I would like to know who I can contact about this legally. Williamsport. Sounds like you need to take it up with whoever's been living in your mom's house for the last 3 months. Instead of bitching about it in Mail Call, maybe you should take a ride over there every once in a while. There could be squatters in your mother's house, taking out the trash and doing laundry right now. Thanks for watching.